been a long time since I've woken up at 04:45 to see an All Black match 23 and then waited with great anticipation for a Springbok match 23. It was like waiting for two big heavyweights to fight. And then for the first 3 rounds, they just looked at each other. I was slightly disappointed.
Mate, I'm so glad that you said that because that is my sentiment as well. We've been waiting for this game, it feels like, for 10 years. The Boks world champions, back-to-back world champions, going to Eden Park to go and break a record that's older than 30 years, mate. 50 tests unbeaten against the almighty All Blacks. The only thing missing from this is the All Blacks are not almighty and the Boks are not acting like world champions. And so you kind of have everything in place except the 2 boxes. You've got the ring, you've got there now, you go, let's get ready to rumble. But you don't have Mike Tyson and some other good heavyweights. It's just like, it's a bit of a no-show.
It was a bit of a hollow feeling that I felt this morning when I saw the squads. And we had said, wait for the bomb squad shock. I didn't realize he was going to dismantle it. I thought maybe diffuse it, but not dismantle it and back it away. We have played the bomb squad twice against New Zealand. Twickenham, 7-1 split. We won the 35-7. We did it 7-1 in the 2023 World Cup final, and we won 12-11. Hey guys, there's a formula, okay? It works against a team that historically has pumped us. They've come to South Africa in the professional era. They've won 19 out of 30 games against the Boks. We've won 4 out of 25 since 1996, 4 out of 28 since 1994, since we came back into international rugby. So to get back-to-backs with a 7-1 split or even a 6-2 split, hey, you've taken the Coca-Cola formula and you've turned it into tab.
Yeah. Now, listen, mate, it is only Thursday night in New Zealand, so there's plenty of time for Rusty to switch it off. And I know we've got a niggle. I love how they're getting away with this now. Anybody that don't want to play, so now he's got a niggle, mate. He's got a niggle. Undisclosed. But anyway, we could have a situation where Atticus Neyman makes a majestic return to the match day 23 on Saturday morning.
Well, look, okay, I looked at that squad. So New Zealand squad came out first, and Rusty's been saying all week, we just want to see what they're going to do. And people are, thanks, find you respect. Joe Smith has taught Rusty's respect. Forget this Monday, Tuesday nonsense. I mean, this is like, Rusty just gobbling it up there, just loving it, how people kind of react to his trolling, for want of a better description. So New Zealand announces a 5-3 split. They do it before they see the Boks squad because they don't have the capacity to play a 6-2 or 7-1. They just don't have that kind of player at the moment. So they've got to be more conservative. And so we say, that's cool. If you're going 5-3, we're going to go 5-3. I just hope that there is a little bit of Rassie, the devil in Rassie comes out before 9:05 on Saturday morning, South African time.
8 forwards on the bench.
And we just see them all there like a one big tank.
You wouldn't believe what happened, guys.
And you see another New Zealand scrum off go down. Oh, no.
But I mean, I don't even know which team you want to start with, but they both just have holes in them, mate. Like, they're fantastic players, but you look at the selections and the combinations and then how they're going to play, and there's just lots of questions.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. So, Auto in general, they've aligned with SA Rugby Magazine and obviously our show. This is brought to you by Auto and General, insurance with readiness for all life's tackles. And they are part of that rugby discussion. They're making it possible for you to be part of that discussion.
Beautiful.
You can win great prizes and 2 tickets to watch the Springboks play the Pumas in Durban. We'll announce a winner from last week and the competition. If you go on to SA Rugby Magazine socials, you go on to all our WhatsApp channels, that's Keo and Zels and SA Rugby Magazine. It's how's the first scoring going to be in the test match at Eden Park. In Cape Town, it was a penalty. It was Andre Pollard and Stian Niedlin. He won that. So congratulations to him. You'll be getting your tickets.
Well, that's
going to watch the Boks play in Durban against Los Pumas. Los Pumas do play against the Wallabies, 6:30 Saturday morning in Townsville.
It's a bit early for a beer, mate.
Townsville.
Yeah.
It's a nice afternoon game. It's like, well, not too early. If you're in Australia, it's not early at all. So it's going to be a great Saturday morning, up early on SuperSport, channel 211. Get in there early for the pre-match comments, the analysis. But we're also going to do something for the first time by popular demand. Zels and I are going to gather at the bottom of the mountain with a few people. It's going to be mince jaffles, and afterwards, obviously, a cold, icy castle lager beer, maybe at halftime. We're going to do a halftime analysis for 10 minutes, and we're going to do a post-match wrap just for 10 minutes on our YouTube channel. So tune in, and we want to hear your comments, and those comments we're going to take into Sunday onto the Facebook page of SA Rugby Magazine, and obviously into our Monday show. That's quite a mouthful before we get
Love it.
to the discussion, which is, you want to start with the Bok, or do you want to start with the All Black 23?
Mate, you are leading the charge here, mate.
Give it to me.
Let's go.
The All Blacks.
Let's go with the All Blacks.
Thank you.
Okay. So, look, as much as I'm disappointed with some of the selections and how we've got to this stage of the season, this massive game, and you look at the lineups and parts of them are underwhelming, the All Blacks have been hit by injury. So they're not picking Cameron Yard. They can't pick him. The bloke can't walk. So there are some selections around the halfback situation where you go, oof, I don't know how well are the All Blacks going to do. Finley Christie makes his first start in a year. On the bench is Kyle Preston from the Crusaders. I'm going to call it now. Kyle Preston is going to score a try off the bench, mate. This bloke is a dynamic scrum half. He is a guy in the Grant Williams kind of mold who can make something happen out of nothing. Not the same kind of athlete, but a very dangerous player. And then you look across that All Blacks team, and they've done some interesting things, mate. Fabian Holland's the guy's come along really nicely as a lock this season. They've parked him on the bench so they can move Tupou Vaa'i, who's finally earned some credit playing blindside flank. They've shifted him back into the second row, mate. And Simon Parker, who started at number 8 for the All Blacks in the last match, shifts into the vacant blindside spot. So Wallace Satiti, the power, hard-running number 8, comes back into the frame for them. And then Artie Severe, on his 100th test, starts on the open side, mate. So Billy Proctor outside centre. Rico only shifts back to the wing. They've brought in Ironi Narawa to start on the right wing, mate, for his aerial skills. Will Jordan's at the back, major threat. Bodie at 10. And a great front row to start and a great front row on the bench. Tamati Williams is there, and he's hungry, mate, and not just for donuts. So I think it's going to be a cracker, but I also am not 100% sure exactly how ready this All Blacks team is to fire at full speed, given the number of changes and their most recent performance.
Well, looking at that, and that was bloody impressive, I've got to tell you, the way you just rattled that off and you weren't even looking at your laptop. Samisoni Takeahu.
Oh,
I like that guy at
right.
16. He's
Yep,
the reserve
he's a
hooker.
great player.
Williams, and then Tyrell Lomax, who most Kiwis rate as the best tight head in the world. And they did that even when France Malhaba was available. And Wilco Lowe's around.
Rugby then, mate.
Well, they don't know scrumming, do they? Because we watch Super Rugby.
I've actually been reading some of their stuff. The pundits over there, mate, they say, no. The All Blacks can scrum and their line-out solid. The set piece, they're going to be rock solid.
It's their back three that they're worried about. It's their backs. How ironic, okay? We're saying we got the backs now, but what's going on with our forwards? When last did we really do something with a good line-out maul? Maybe against Japan in 2019.
It's been a while.
But interesting that they got a Duplessis on the bench and a Dutchman in Fabian Holland. So
That'll explain the switch.
we could be a kind of winner on either side. But looking at that, I'm surprised at the minimal amount of change that they went with their back three. So they've kept Rico Ione on the left wing, Will Jordan at 15, and Will Jordan, a fantastic player, one of the best strike rates in world rugby, one of the best strike rates ever. In terms of any win or fullback to play the game, I think he's better placed on the win than at fullback. For this particular game, I may have gone Bowden Barrett at 15 because he's very good under the high ball.
Great shot.
And Damon McKenzie into 10. Will Jordan on the one win. And then someone who can catch a ball. I still think Mark Telea is their best winner. But
Agreed.
because he's going to Japan, they don't want to
Out
pick
the
him.
mix, yeah.
He's out the mix. You talk about no Cam Roygaard, no Richie Mohanga, because they don't want to pick him because he's playing in Japan. So when I look at this All Black side, I think for the 2027 World Cup, fitness permitting, they will be a lot different, a lot better, and a lot stronger, especially in their backs.
Agreed.
But if you take that Saturday is World Cup final repeat, where's Jamie Wall, our mate among the New Zealand media, and he says, a South African and Springbok rugby ambassador. I loved the way he described Saturday's test. He said it's bigger than any World Cup because you can win back a World Cup. But if the Springboks win, the All Blacks can never get back that record. They will take from us something we can never get back. 50 unbeaten matches at Eden Park, and it started with an 18-all draw against the Springboks in 1994. We've been there 5 times, inclusive of that one. We've lost 4 times. The last one, you were at Eden Park. 2013. I was at the other ones. You were at that one. We've not seen the Boks win at Eden Park. Your thoughts on that one, because that was the infamous Bismarck-du Plessis match.
Sure.
Of going there, your expectation, if you have to describe to the South African punter who has never been to Auckland, never been to Eden Park, what makes the ground different? Did it meet your expectation, or did you think, what was the fuss about?
No, mate. So what I would say is the thing that really jumped out was having watched Super Rugby for a long, long time, and being a fan of New Zealand rugby, the style of play, the sort of exuberance of it, the flash of Christian Cullen. You kind of get swept up in that stuff. And you kind of assume that the positivity of New Zealand rugby in their Super Rugby franchises is reflected in their fan base. That there'd be a very sort of, pro-rugby, rah-rah sort of style. Mate, let me tell you, the Boks got a hostile reception at Eden Park. To say that the New Zealand public was loud is understating it dramatically, and not just loud, but violent in their verbiage. So the Boks are not just playing in front of a crowd that love their rugby and respect the heritage of this thing. There are real All Blacks fans out there, just like there are real Bok fans who are not shy to tell visiting All Blacks what they think of them. The Boks are in for exactly the same thing. It is a difficult place to play, and I would imagine, not having ever been on the field, but from what I experienced of the crowd there, they really do get in behind the All Blacks, and it's loud and vicious.
And it's also, it's what a lot of people tend to forget in this country who haven't been there. It's used for cricket and for rugby. So it's a very weird kind of structure. It doesn't feel like a rugby field, and when you're playing cricket there, it doesn't feel like a cricket field either. So, and I saw this interview on that Matt Pierce did with Bismarck-du Plessis, reliving the infamous yellow card. And if you follow them on X at SS Rugby, it's a great thing, and courtesy of them, we can use a lot of their clips. They've been doing some amazing stuff this week, and just behind the scenes, interviewing players, showing us some of the great tries, both All Blacks and Springboks. But I really enjoyed the Bismarck-du Plessis one when he says he knew that he hadn't basically done anything illegal when he connected.
Great hit.
It was one of the great hits.
Great hit.
But there was earlier in the season, so if you may have seen this clip where the Crusaders played against the Hurricanes, and Ma Nona put in a tackle on Dan Carter, and it was deemed early. They were penalized, and Andrew Hall was the captain of the Hurricanes, had enough. He went to the referee, and he just said, "Is no one allowed to tackle Carter? Is that how it works in New Zealand?" And apparently, no. You're not allowed to tackle him because they needed him, okay?
Even the Frenchmen knew that.
They needed him for every kind of test match. And so when this happens, as Bismarck says, he was a tractor in second gear, so he got him just when he should have. He knew he had hurt him when he went down. All legal, though. And he says he gets called over. Romain Poit sends him off. Second yellow card. He's absolutely distraught. He's emotional. He's walking back to the naughty chair, and he hears this irritating voice, "Hey, Bismarck, hey, Bismarck, hey, Bismarck." And he says, he looks up, and it's Andrew Hall. He's opposite hook, and he says, "What did I tell you? You're not allowed to tackle Carter, mate." And he said that just broke the ice. And afterwards, because these guys are really the one thing from my time with the Boks, and obviously having covered the Springbok All Black rivalry since 1992 with all that family connection in New Zealand, and obviously being born in Cape Town in South Africa myself, is the respect that there is from both sets of players off the field as well. And you've seen that in the build-up this week. There's been no clickbait. There's been no disrespect. There's been no kind of talk or irreverence. There's been no mind games. I mean, Rassie's been at his best ever behavior. And Scott Robinson's, mate, he's just trusting the process.
It's a bit disconcerting.
Just trusting the process, man. They've got the professor in, Wayne Smith, to do the business. But going back to that All Black side that you so eloquently explained, I really did think there'd be greater changes on the back three. They know that those bombs are coming from Pollard and Grant Williams.
Indeed.
I thought that Billy Proctor would make way. I've been a bit disappointed in the way he hasn't transferred form into the Test arena. I thought he was very good for the Canes in Super Rugby. Big problems at 9. Ratimes is injured.
Cortes Ratima's injured. Yeah. Hotham.
Roygod's injured. Aaron Smith's unavailable because he plays in Japan.
Yeah.
So but Preston has been good when he's played for the Crusaders.
Yeah.
They haven't seen much of Simon Parker. I know his cousin Peter Parker a lot more, Spider-Man.
And his Uncle Nosy.
Exactly. We know how Wallace Satidi came through last year. He was short of a gallop in Argentina. I just think we're leaving out Ergier Snyman, and then they take in a guy they don't know as a sixth flank or a lock, and they put in them. And when we can leave out a guy like Ergier Snyman, leave out a guy like Franco Mostert, that does tell me the depth there. But what does concern me slightly is if Siya Kolisi is not fit, don't play him. And Rassie always had this thing, if you can't train on a Monday, you don't play.
Yeah.
And so he's taken Jean-Luc, who pulled out with a late injury and then illness in Cape Town. And he's apparently picked up another niggle, so he's not playing, according to the press reports. Siya was not going to play on Monday when they announced the team internally. Jesse retained the captaincy. Now Siya is playing. It's just those little chinks that were never there before. He was very insistent before. If you can't make it on Monday, you're not playing on Saturday. And it was cast in stone. And then I really thought they would go 6-2, maybe even 7-1. And Ethan Hooker, we thought he would be involved in this test match. But if he was going to be unleashed, then you start him. Kane and Moody, I'm one of his biggest fans. I thought he was indifferent when he came on in Johannesburg and didn't have his finest game in Cape Town. He is starting. He's a quality player, but I thought this could be the one where Hooker does start and bring something different. And I think Damian Willems will also realize that year that he spent out with injury, he's lost a bit of ground to Fussy, and they've obviously gone for the calm head of Willie Leroux. But I kind of think the 5-3 plays into New Zealand's hands a bit more than it plays into ours.
Definitely. And I think that's been a recurring theme that we've had this conversation. We spoke about the Boks trying to out-wallaby the Wallabies, and it didn't work at Ellis Park. And, you look at this Bok team and it's just really difficult to understand what we are trying to do in our selections and probably in the way we're going to play on Saturday. But by the same token, you look at the team and your starting lineup has an average experience of 63 test caps. So you can't really write these guys off. I mean, these double world champions. I think we've got 12 guys in the starting lineup who are 30 or older. And the bench average age is 28. And there are some exciting youngsters in there. Kane Moody's a great player, young player, 22 years old. You've got Jan-Hendrik Wessels on the bench, 24, and then obviously Hooker coming in there. So it's difficult to take shots at these Boks, and that's not what I'm trying to do. I just felt like by the time I thought everything was pointing towards this test. I thought last year, the whole thing was to try and get us ready to really have a good go this year. And injuries aside, I look at this lineup, and Willie Leroux's return makes sense to me because it's a reversion to some of the things that helped them win the last World Cup. He comes in as a second playmaker, can unlock teams with massive skip passes that are clearly forward that don't get called. So that's fantastic, and we score great tries of that. So that's a move away from Fussy and attack from everywhere, high running meters, electric counter-attack. But then you look and you've got Siya Kolisi at 8, coming back miraculously from a 4-week injury in 2 weeks. And he's not an 8 that fits the style that Rassie picks. Rassie wants Jasper Wiese there. And in his absence, he picked his brother, who's probably less mobile than Jasper. And Jean-Luc Depree is not in the mix this week when he's probably the closest thing to that mold of a player. They say he's got a niggle. I don't know. He was ill last week. This week he's got a niggle. But still, it just doesn't make sense to me that that's where he's going to play in the game plan that we saw them use to win 2 World Cups. So are they playing a different style of game? I don't know. Maybe. It seems like Kane and Moody is a pick that's quite reactionary. So they saw that Rico Oni and Sevu Reece and the guys struggled under the high ball. So let's pick a guy who's good under the high ball. Kane and Moody scored some great tries under the high ball. Let's pick him. But it's quite reactionary. Whereas the Boks under Rassie have been much more progressive and sort of taking the initiative, being proactive. Like, you follow us. We're naming the team on a Monday. We're going to come and do this. You react to us. It feels like we're reacting to them now.
Well, the back line there, with the exception of Willie, is what started in Cape Town.
Yeah.
Restored some law and order, beat the Wallabies. The pack, I was surprised Walker didn't start. They may have looked at that New Zealand pack and said, we need Walker to come off the bench. It's a very strong front row that New Zealand have got on the bench. Probably the strongest I've seen them put on their bench for some time. Because our tight 5, and I know it's a collective when it comes to the set piece, comes to the scrum, for the first 60 minutes, we didn't move Australia in Cape Town. Thomas du Toit, tight end, good player. Malcolm Marks, we're now one of the best with him and Sheehan, and I think probably the two best in the world at hookers. and then Ox, who we know for being destructive. He wasn't. But then again, you didn't have in the beginning Eben and Lurt on. You had Adhir and Ruan or Keo, a very different locking combination that was starting. So your back five is also so prevalent to how well your front rowers perform. So when I looked at the makeup of that, I think maybe our bench is a bit to counter the bench that they've picked
Big time.
in the traditional way. To see a Lurt and a Walker coming on, so you've got that strength. But I was surprised that there's no Adhir's name on it. 2018, Bodie Marriott hits the post. They score 6 tries. We score 4. They give Willie LaRue 1. Cheslin Colby, first ever test try. Wonderful intercept. Pollard kicks everything. Barrett basically misses most things. We win 36-34. Adhir Snam was one of the guys there. He's the new Victor Matfield. He's a combination of Bucky's and Victor. And that's 7 years ago.
Mm.
And he hasn't really, I know he had injuries. He had the freak accident with the fire. But the year he had with Leinster, Player of the Year, Players Player of the Year, Fans Player of the Year. I thought that this would be the international season where Adhir Snyman arrived.
Mm.
And I just feel he's maybe fallen behind in the pecking order for whatever reason, whether it's he wasn't given enough game time.
Yeah.
But Arun Nokia has kind of stepped up a bit more and could be seen as the natural successor to Franco Mostert, who can play 7 and obviously play 5. So surprised that there's no Adhir Snyman there. He may be injured. Who knows? You never know what's going on inside the kraal.
Mm.
But I would love to see him on the bench. And again, I would love to see him in the 7-1 bench.
Spot on.
And at worst, a 6-2 bench. I just think 5-3 is really kind of a cool Super Rugby game for New Zealand.
Totally. Agree with that 100%. And I do think that, like we've been talking about the inversion, it used to be that the starting lineup was the stars of the show and the bench were afterthoughts for an emergency. In this game, the benches are the stars of the show. The benches are going to decide who wins this game. The guys who are starting are almost the afterthought. You've got Lurt Diaga coming on. You've got Kwagga coming on. Bowen Fence is somebody they clearly believe in at loosehead prop, and Wilco Low is being relied upon massively to turn around whatever happens in the first half at scrum time. Jan-Hendrik Wessels, huge responsibility to win those lineouts at hooker, having been groomed to sort of fill in as a loosehead prop. Now he's basically going to be crucial to the bomb squad and our set piece in the second half, throwing the ball into the lineouts. And then for me, Kobus Reinach's a guy who should have potentially started this game if we were going to play a tactical game, with Grant Williams coming on to use his speed against guys who are flagging. So interesting selections. Obviously, Sasha Feinberg and Ngomezulu, another guy who can add value. And then Ethan Hooker, we're hoping for the best. He's a guy who's proved that you can put him in at very short notice and he's a consistent performer. But just getting back to the selections, it's not so much the names on the paper. It's just how we got to this part. Like, Kanan Moody is playing his first test of the year at 11. He was at 14 in the last match. Before that, he played 2 games at 13. So when you look back at how we got to this point, you're trying to understand why was Kanan at 14 last week? Why was Cheslin at 11? Why the switch? It's just a lot of maneuvering. There's a lack of consistency. And as much as it makes us unpredictable, I think it makes us unpredictable to ourselves as well.
But now if you look at our backs, and we saw that in Cape Town, Willie Mfofasi, calm ahead, second receiver, the way he plays so well, how he can create. Perfect foil for Pollard, and we saw that when we won 2 World Cups. The role he also played as a support role to Damian Willemse at 2023, when Damian Willemse was the preferred start in the World Cup final. So the backline for me is not so much the issue. They've done it before. They've won everything that there is basically to win. And there you got Sasha coming off the bench, and you've obviously got the experience of Kobus Rana. I'm just surprised in this test match, where do you fit Ethan Hooker in? What role does he play? Because if Kanan Moody's going well and Cheslin's going well, is it a case of then Cheslin goes to fullback and Willie's legs go in the last 20 potentially, and then Hooker comes in on the wing? Because I'm sure they will play him on the wing more than they would play him in the midfield unless there's an injury.
Spot on.
But I find it's a kind of a weird test to have introduced him if he wasn't starting, firstly.
But you can make a case for it. Like, you could argue it. It's just that given the context and importance of this game, it's just weird. It's just there's an odd feeling about this team in terms of the constitution of it and how we got to this part of the season. Like if Ethan had played most of the tests this year at 11 and I was on the bench this week, and you go, okay, I can kind of understand how we got to this place. But he's kind of been MIA, and now the biggest game of the season in a lot of people's minds, you thrust him on the bench.
Yeah, and I think the New Zealand Rugby public would say the same thing when they look at Scott Robinson's selection.
Probably, yeah.
It's like the midfield's still not settled in terms of a combination.
Billy Proctor, yeah.
And a lot of people are saying it's because he's been asked to play differently for the All Blacks. Mills was one of those. And I spent this week watching nearly every podcast that's come out in New Zealand, and it's been great, Again, I talk about the respect. There's no one's taking pot shots at each other. Everyone's acknowledging this is a big test match. Jeff Wilson said, the team's been selected, he thought they would go for big-name players who have been in a World Cup final before, because it's going to be a game that could be decided on having been there before, as opposed to some young kid who comes on. You talk about a Carl Preston and Ethan Hooker. It would be ironic if one of those two decide the test.
Mate.
One's played 20 minutes of test rugby, the other's never played.
Yep.
Okay? So stranger things have happened, especially at Eden Park, where they haven't lost since 1994. That's 31 years. 50 test matches, 2 draws in that time, 94 against the Boks, 18 all, 2017 against the British and Irish Lions, 15 all. We outscored them 2 tries to 0 in 94. They outscored the British and Irish Lions 15 all. They got that penalty to win it off the kickoff, and then there was 2 French referees conspired to overturn it and give a scrum, and the series was drawn. So,
wow.
And there have been a few escapes for them there. But do you think in the context of this game, maybe Russie doesn't see this as a World Cup final, because why would he have to? He's just won the last 2. He's still got the trophy. But if you do add up all the numbers, as I said to you yesterday, it is number 11 that you come to on Saturday. So if you are into numbers and you really understand the meaning of 11, it's a good sign for the Boks, okay? But I don't know. It's not knocking anything about this Boks squad or the All Black squad. I mean, they're 2 very powerful squads.
Teams, yeah.
But I expected a 23 to be announced, and I was going to go, wow.
Yeah, it's on. It is on.
And I just thought, hang on a second, there's just a little, it's very conservative and slightly vulnerable.
Exactly.
And I haven't felt that about a Boks squad for a long time.
That's my point. Exactly.
So I looked at Jan Hendrik Wessels and Boam Venter. Fantastically talented.
Yep.
But they're not the bomb squad, okay? Then I look at 5-3, and I think that's not the bomb squad. Then I look at Kobus Reinach, and I think, can he change a game? Not necessarily. So does he come and play out a game? It's if Pollard is going well, why would you put Sasha in? Then Sasha goes to fullback. Is that where he really needs to be? Where you looked at that World Cup squad and you looked at the big last year's rugby championship, there was such a definitive plan around who they picked and when they picked them.
Exactly. No, I agree with that 100%. And I mean, starting Thomas du Toit and Rowan O'Keefe, 2 obviously very good players. Thomas du Toit has been around. But it just felt like Luit Diago was kind of come back onto the scene and sort of stated his case. Obviously a guy that has played a lot with Eben Etzebeth, and a guy who I think probably New Zealand would be more fearful of. Just an interesting choice to have him come off the bench. I think this bench is pretty potent, but I think that All Blacks bench is equally as potent among the forwards. I think they've got some real good front rowers coming off that bench and adding massive value. So the second half, for me, is where the game will be won and lost.
Look, the one thing I've got to say about these All Blacks, they're going to be better in 2027. When they do get 1 or 2 of those players back from overseas, Leicester's back already. He will be in the mix, probably for the Wellington test.
Yeah.
He should feature. Mark Talea may be back by 2027. Who knows what happens? Mohanga is the key there, and Roygaard if he stays fit. So they will be a very different back division a year or 2 from now.
Yeah.
When I look at their pack, we've always said that their front rowers are going to be good. 2 years ago, they were youthful and they're coming through. I just don't know if they quite got the cattle in the back 3. Ardie Severe is a great player playing his 100th test. Duplessis Karifi, wonderful name. Would he make a Boks squad? I doubt it. It's Fabian Holland, strong. They're raving about him. Kind of like 1 of 20 in South Africa. So their issues are, I would say, on the pack. Although in that first test in Buenos Aires, where they play?
Cordoba.
Cordoba, they scored 3 tries from a line-out drive. their set piece was strong. It looked comfortable. Where ours has looked shaky. I mean, how do you miss Algiers Neyman? How do you miss Eben? What's going on there?
But that's the thing, though. I mean, like we spoke about this again with the Wallabies. It's like, and you said now, maybe Rassie isn't that serious about winning this game. Maybe it's not the top priority. Maybe this is part of a bigger picture. But at some point, the Boks have got to start getting back to their best. Like, we can't be in experimental mode forever. And this seems like a game that would be quite important for all the stakeholders to just remind everybody we are world champions, because there is a lot of hype around this game. And like, we kind of wrote off the July test as being, well, we're getting everybody game time. And then we wrote off the Wallabies as well. They're just in a terrible place. We kind of played in a way that brought them into the game. And now it seems like we're doing the same thing. If your life was on the line here, the selection of this team, I think, would be different in terms of it would be a more power-based team that you chose. And you would have probably built it up to get to this point, having played the players that are playing on Saturday in multiple tests leading up to this, which we don't have any of that behind us. It's a bit of a head scratcher.
Yeah, and if you're going to join our discussion, which I know you were, if I looked at what happened last week on SA Rugby Magazine's Facebook page, on our YouTube channel, Powered by Auto in general, joining the discussion, and then also joining the competition of who's going to score the first points, and is it going to be a drop goal, a try, a penalty? You can win 2 tickets to watch the Boks play against the Pumas in Durban. And then also, Castle Rugby Championship. We always say drink responsibly. Don't drink before 12. I'm sure a lot of people will be drinking before 12 in a good way at their homes, watching it. Where I'm going to be watching it with Jaffles and watching it with my mate Zels, because we are going to be talking at halftime and talking at full time, briefly but quickly, and getting that conversation going as well. Boks by 10 with our mates at Avant. They've taken the Keo and Zels Boks by 10 and they've gone, that's their bet for the week. So if you use the Keo and Zels code, use it. There's not extreme cash in it for us. There's something in it for you. QR code, if you go online, if you go into a store, use it, and you pick Boks by 10 for whatever you buy. They're going to match it, VSOP, on the same day delivery. And I've spoken to the Oaks, and guess what? They say Boks by 1 even. There may even be a thing. If the Boks went outright, they may match your order. So that is something to consider for the weekend. It's going to be a great one. We're building up to Heritage Day on the 24th of September, the biggest ever braai built in Mzansi. Another record, but the record we're going for on Saturday is to beat the All Blacks for the first time since 1994. 31 years, 50 test matches. Zels, is it possible?
It is possible. The Boks can win this game. We haven't won in New Zealand since 2018, but we did it with the coach who's still in charge and who's since won 2 World Cups. So absolutely, this Boks team can win. We definitely have the capability, and we're playing an All Blacks team that is also in a state of disrepair / rebuilding with a lot of question marks around them. Do I think the Boks are going to win? No, I don't think the Boks are going to win this weekend, mate. And it pains me to say that, but you so eloquently laid it out, the history of the test rivalry with the All Blacks. We don't win in New Zealand often, and when we do, we've got all our stuff together, and I don't think we really have all our ducks in a row this week. I do think it's going to be a cracking test. I do think it'll be close. I would back the Boks on a +3.5 handicap, but I've got New Zealand to win this on the outright.
But you talk about handicaps and that, and a great bet is, if you got something to flutter, is backing an outright Bok win.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get R2.55 back on your rand.
That's fabulous.
That's
worth every
fabulous
cent.
odds. So the bookies are going history.
Yeah.
They're going 4 Bok wins in 25 in the professional age and 1 draw. They're going 50 unbeaten at Eden Park, the Fortress. The Kiwis find something extra there. I talk about when we went over with Harry Verloon's team, and I was part of the Bok management, and we were fired up for that game. They had lost. They were in disarray. I think people they were at one of the lowest points we had seen with them, and we really felt we could take this game. We had drawn in Perth. We had beaten the Wallabies in Pretoria. It's 12-3. We lost in Cape Town against the All Blacks. Monty and Butch unfortunately missed a few kicks. Tony Brown kicked 4 penalties that day. It was Maurice Joubert and Joe van Niekerk's debuts. Mark Andrews. Joan Lobber put in a massive tackle on him just in front of the grandstand. So it really had everything, that test match. And we went there And, Andre Venter was in his prime. Joost was there. Mark Andrews, they played their 75th test. And we were like, this is the day we take the record. And we went out there all fired up. I remember Andre Venter gave this wonderful team talk. He said, you've got to basically be like a dog. You've got to go out there and you've got to basically do your business everywhere and show them we own this park. Kobus Versage, who never speaks, he just grabbed everyone. He said, we hit first, they don't hit first. We all hit today. They can't send us all off. We were so pumped. And even the management. And we went out there and then they cut the lights, okay? And we said, and our guys just stood there for like 3 minutes watching a montage of New Zealand, what makes the All Blacks special, the men in black, the haka, for 40,000 people doing the haka in the stands, and then they walked out as the lights went back on. First line out, they smashed, I think Chris Jack took a pot at Mark Andrews. Byron Keller took a patch at Joost.
Yeah.
And it was over. Harry Fidu just looked at me and he said, we're going to get drilled tonight. 26-15, and that was the game.
Yeah.
And the only thing we could say is Jonah Lomu didn't score against us, but we certainly he had about 10 oaks on his back every time.
Yeah.
So there is something funeral type about playing there.
Yeah.
You go to Ellis Park, it's like this hostility. It's Alcatraz. It's like, oh, you get there and you think, what's the fuss about? I remember when Carl's team, Matt Pierce and I, Matt, we were doing radio commentary, and Matty was the head commentator, and I was giving some analysis, and it was his first time there, and it's like we scored early on, 7-0, and he's like, what is it? And then at 55-21, he's like, I can see what that is. The slow procession, yeah. So it's not quite that aura of the All Blacks, but it is one hell of a hard place to win at, and no disrespect to it. And I mean, I looked at who they've actually beaten there. You talk about the history of New Zealand. They've lost 14 test matches at home in the last 31 years.
Jeez.
And about 5 of them have been in the last 3 years. So you don't go to New Zealand and win easily. We remember them because it's so rare.
Yeah.
I remember in the day where they had all this dominance over us for about 12 years. And there was a generation of All Blacks and All Black supporters who had never known them to basically lose to the Boks. And one of the Kiwi journalists said to me, the difference with our rivalry at the moment is we remember the losses and you remember the wins. And we've managed to restore that balance now with Rassie since 2018. Yep. We have the edge. Like we said, 7-5-1 over the last 13, and that's in our favor, and that's brilliant as well. In the last 3 test matches, a draw, a win, and a loss. And I thought we went in cold on that 35-20 at Mount Smart. But if you look at who they've beaten for that, in those 50 tests unbeaten, they've beaten Australia 20 times. They've beaten South Africa 4 times and the one draw in 94. They've beaten England 5 times. They've beaten France 5 times. They've beaten Ireland 4 times. There's 2 wins and a draw against the British and Irish Lions over 2 different series. 2 wins against the Pumas, 2 against Scotland, 1 Samoa, 1 Wales, 1 Tonga, and 1 Canada. That just that is awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
That is awe-inspiring. And that's the record they are going to play to preserve. And that's the challenge I think all of South Africa needs to understand. Wellington will be different. The All Blacks have struggled in their new stadium in Wellington over the last few years.
Well, they call it the Cake Tin, mate. We'll be sending ox there. So, we're going to
complete, and we will be feasting. And we won there. We drew there. Australia nearly won there. They drew there. The Pumas won there. The Lions, British and Irish Lions, won there. So I think they've won 2 out of their last 8 matches in Wellington. I don't know why they go back there. It's like when we go to Durban.
Exactly.
It's not very good. But Auckland is different.
Yeah.
We went to North Harbour Stadium, 10 Ks away. We took 57-0. We went to Mount Smart, another 10 Ks away, 35-20. But in Auckland, the biggest chance that we had, I thought, was your test, 2013. 29-15. They scored 4 tries. But that was one of the great All Black sides, possibly the greatest that they've had. And the Bismarck du Plessis sending off was the big game changer there. When I look at this match, you look at the 2 team lineups and you say, from a winning habit, we should have the edge. But what is that Eden Park record and what is that Eden Park turf worth in terms of a home ground advantage? Is it 5 points? Is it 10? Is it 15? What would you put it?
I would say at least 10, mate. I think it's a significant value. And for me, history counts a lot. I think there's a reason teams historically rock up there from the other side of the world and don't win, particularly at that stadium. And like I say, when I was there, that the supporters are are very loud and very, very hostile. It is a difficult place to feel comfortable in, I think, for the players. There's just something about that place, man. And I think the All Blacks probably picked themselves up there. I just think it really is a fortress for the All Blacks, and it's borne out in the stats there. So I would say that's worth 10 points to that team.
Are the All Blacks good enough, this current squad, to come back from 29-23 to win at Eden Park? And in a way, does that favor them, that there's so much scrutiny, they're under the pump, so much pressure? And is this the biggest game of Razor's earlier tenure? He's lost 5 test matches in 19. Steve Hansen lost 5 in his first 73. He loses this one, and then the potential of next week. How much doubt does that cost on the appointment of, is he a Robbie Deans type that just couldn't transfer Super Rugby coaching form into the test arena?
Yeah, I think so. Internally, less so, but I think the narrative does have power. I mean, the media has power. It does shape the stakeholders' thinking. It might not be an internal thing, but the pressure that comes from outside on Razor will certainly be shaped by what the media and the public are saying. And I think as much as Razor and Russie have got long-term plans to win the next World Cup, they have to pay homage and respect to these kind of fixtures because they can potentially sway the narrative dramatically. So whether it's fair or unfair or right or wrong, I think a loss for Razor would certainly dent his tenure right now and probably put him on the bubble a little bit. And for Rusty, with people questioning, like, where is the team right now? You know, we are double world champions, but we're not playing like double world champions. The Boks need to deliver a really intense performance, whether it's a win or loss. Anything less than that on the weekend, and I think you'll have people questioning, is this team at a crossroads?
Listening to Stephen Donald, I love his insights as well. He's got a great voice as well. And he's like, New Zealand has to be brave. They have to be like Australia were at Ellis Park. They've got to attack the wide channels. He says they've got to move our big forwards around, and they've got to back themselves and beat the blitz defense like that. And they spoke about beating the blitz defense, but I don't feel it is the blitz defense of Jock Nienhaber that we've seen that has suffocated them in the past. It's kind of like we're lost in translation about how we're defending at the moment or even how we're attacking. But he said, be brave. If you're going to try and play South Africa at the game, the DNA of a tight game, an arm wrestle, they're going to lose. So I think they will be brave if you look at the team that they've picked as well, that they do believe they can do it. They would have taken a lot from that Australian game at Ellis Park and also in Cape Town, where the Aussies finished the stronger. They did kind of, they exposed us with the way they manipulated space and especially depth with ball in hand, quick hands. And again, quick hands because we seemed in two worlds in how we were approaching our defense. And then the South African thing is, do we get seduced into playing that way and turn it into a classic Super Rugby Australia, New Zealand type Bledisloe Cup that everyone says, what a game of rugby, greatest game ever played, 31-26 to New Zealand? Or do we say we're going there to win this game, and it means we're going to kick 20 aerial bombs in the first 20 minutes to win back the ball, force pressure, kick points? We must do that. Where's your headspace?
Yeah, I think the selection of the back row for the Boks and the resources available in the matchday squad suggest the Boks are going to attack the breakdown. You've got Marco van Staden, you've got Siya Kolisi, and you've got Kwagga Smith. So I think the Boks are definitely going to be in a position where they'll be putting up box kicks to test that New Zealand back three and potentially placing guys like those Lucy's I just mentioned to have a go at that breakdown, to disrupt and to create chaos. And then I think they're going to continue to invest in the plan that they've built around Tony Ball. And I think they're going to rely on those three guys to protect the attacking breakdown and make sure the Boks are able to play. If I'm New Zealand, I'm going to give South Africa opportunities to try and use Tony Ball against us. Because on transition, I think that the New Zealanders naturally are very talented, make good decisions and have great finishes. I think Will Jordan on transition ball is going to be a tough bloke to stop. So if I was New Zealand, I don't think I would be trying to create as much as potentially the Boks are going to be trying to create. And I think you can negate some of the speed in that loose trio and the Kwagga coming off the bench in a game where you're playing off transitions. You've got them chasing kicks. If you can nullify those guys at the breakdown and then play out of there and potentially hit grass, I think you've got an opportunity to kind of bamboozle the Boks a bit. So,
and we talk about the identity of the Boks, the DNA of the Boks. It's if you're going to play the Tony Ball way or evolve the game that way, you've also got to look at your personnel, because those guys who won us the 2019 World Cup and 2023 World Cup, playing in the trenches, taking teams to the gutter, not to the dance floor, they may not be the right guys
Exactly.
to play that way.
Exactly.
And so where Australia spoke about moving our heavies around, it's while you're playing a game like that, when you have heavies to move around, then surely mobility comes into the mix
Spot on.
and a different type of player.
Yeah.
So I think we spoke yesterday when we were speculating about the team. We had a great conversation. And you were like, I don't know the team because I just don't know if they actually know where they are at the moment.
Yeah.
Do you still feel that when you see the team?
Yeah, I definitely feel like there's an identity crisis. I mean, with Ruan Nokia and those Lucy's I just mentioned now, you've got massive mobility in this team. It feels like they're going to have a go, mix it up with contestable kicks. And the recipe may work because we are playing an All Blacks team that also is in a state of a bit of identity crisis. But you do really struggle to put your finger on where the Boks are at. And maybe that's intentional. Maybe that unpredictability is the plan. And we've spoken about that in multiple episodes. It just is unsettling for a fan of the Boks because you're not really sure what you're going to get from them. And so you're constantly playing catch up to try and understand, okay, where are we going with this and what is the long-term benefit to the team?
Well, we look at the greatest rivalry, All Blacks against the Springboks, and I mean, as I said all week, just absolute respect from both sides in the media, players, and a love for each other as well. New Zealand claiming, but we may be ranked one, but you are actually one. Us saying you are one, but it's like everyone doesn't want to be number one at the moment. Give it to Ireland, okay? Let them be number one in between.
They
World
want
Cups.
it.
They want it, yeah. They forget about the World Cups, but this great respect, but also this nervousness on both sides.
Yeah.
So, but who has more to lose, New Zealand or South Africa?
It's a tricky one. I mean, if you ask guys at each side of the camp, they'd probably say in private themselves, I think probably New Zealand. I think they're closer to being on the bubble and potentially a coaching change. I think Rassie's got massive credit in the bank as a double world champion coach. And he's proven time and time again that he can restore a team to being very, very competitive. With Razor, you're looking for signs of life in that team. Yes, and they're finally putting together a nice tight five, but now they need to put the whole package together, and results have got to start coming in. And they've suffered historic losses, like the most recent one against Argentina. So I'd say probably Razor's under more pressure than Rassie. But internally, I think a loss against the All Blacks at Eden Park would certainly take the sting out of the season for a lot of the players in this group, and there'd be some deep soul searching.
Well, listening to Goldie and Stephen Donald Mills and Justin Marshall. Justin Marshall also outstanding with his insights. And obviously his great rivalry with US, his respect for the All Blacks against the Springbok matches. Him and Jeff Wilson being part of that 96 historic series when they won 33-26 in Pretoria. Sean Fitzpatrick, the captain. So they were talking about all this kind of like history. But Justin Marshall went back and he said, hey, we've lost 4 times on the bounce to them now. There's a reason they've beaten us 4 times. We have to do something different to win. So park that one. Why are we doing something different to potentially lose?
Spot on, mate. Spot on. That's what I've been saying. That's what we've been saying since the start of last season is we double world champions. Teams can't live with our power, but we're moving away from that game. Because just in case somebody stops plan A, we want to know that we have a plan B, even if that's at the risk of not being able to do plan A very well. And in the last couple of weeks, the last couple of months, we've turned guys that were revered and probably still are revered by many people as the best players in the world. We found a way to make them start looking average. And they've gone away from being the guys who will kill you in the gutters to being a guy who can sell you a second-hand car. And that's not where we need to be. We need to get back to being robust, in your face, vicious, and focused on one thing only, and that's winning. And I think when the Boks start moving in that direction, the results are going to follow. But maybe this is part of the journey to get back to that place.
So Sean Fitzpatrick, 92 test matches, a World Cup winner, one of the great, great All Blacks, and a lover of South Africa as well. He said they look tired, the Boks. And he said, and rightly so, back-to-back world champions, rugby championship winners, and you look at the 5 from 6 last season, they were outstanding. And the way they finished it off, the way they beat the Pumas in Nelspruit, 45-7, was that the glory end of that era, and this was going to be a transition year as we go into 26, and really a lot of that squad dynamic starts changing, moving towards 2027. And is this the last dance for a lot of the players that they're handing on to that 8-year period? Or is it, Hell, they lost a game at home that they weren't expected to lose, and they've been rotating. Where do you think this box
Yeah.
setup is at the moment?
Yeah, you see, you can never really say never with Rassie. Like, he could take a team with an average age of 40 to the World Cup, and you think, hey, maybe they could win it. But if you look at history, this side has already got an average age of 30 in the starting lineup, 31 years old. These guys are supposed to be the core of the next World Cup winning team. You just can't see it happening. You just can't see them going to a World Cup with 4, 5, 6 guys in their mid-30s and really, having a good shot at winning the World Cup. So you feel like there has to be a transition. It just is, I don't know if disappointing is the right way. You kind of feel like you'd like to see guys go out on their own terms, and you don't want to see a guy like Eben Etzebeth potentially not make the World Cup because he couldn't be a wing forward on the trams. You want him to go out because the next Eben Etzebeth just came through. It's Erkius Neyman, and he's melting oaks in the tight loose. Not because he can offload, in the 5-meter channel. And I think we're not seeing the best of these players, not because they're all too old, but because this change in style is moving away from their core strengths. And that's going to be a horrible way to see some of these veterans go out when potentially they should just have lost the job because the next guy is younger and more ferocious.
So I watched Novak Djokovic go into the semifinals. I think it's his 65th Grand Slam semifinal. And one of the commentators said, but does he need the 25th one to cement his legacy? And that was quickly put down like, I don't know, I think 24 is enough and 65 is enough. Youngest ever into the US Open, oldest ever semifinal. Is this a nice to have for these Boks, ending the Eden Park test run of the All Blacks? And not necessarily a must have, but for the All Blacks, it's a must have because the consequences could be huge from that.
Spot on. Well put.
This would not define in any way the incredible achievements or the legacy of the Springbok side. Lions Series winners, back-to-back World Cup winners, Rugby Championship winners, beaten every team they've played. It would just be wonderful that a team of this quality would be the one to end it. And like you said, not necessarily an indifferent New Zealand up against France's second team.
Yeah.
On a particularly bad night.
Yeah. So for me, I'm looking forward. I'm not looking back. Like what happens on the week, if the Boks lose 55-0, it doesn't change the fact that they're double world champions. They've beaten everybody. This is arguably the greatest Bok team ever. But I'm looking forward. I'm saying 2027 World Cup. How do we look when we get there? We are on the precipice of doing something that's never been done before, winning 3 World Cups. Probably not with the same group of players, but under the same coaching team. And being able to beat the All Blacks at Eden Park 2 years out from the next World Cup is a massive milestone, a massive marker, and probably a great foundation of confidence as you rebuild the team, and something that you can always look back on for learnings and understanding. So that's the opportunity for me. It's not about defending our legacy. This Bok team is unassailable. Nothing that happens on the weekend can change that, in my opinion.
How have you found the build-up to be? I mean, you've on SA Rugby magazine, you've been following it on the podcast. I just found that there was this flurry early on in the week, and it's like everyone shot their bullets early on and waiting in anticipation for this team. When the team comes, there's this kind of cautious approach now to this hushed silence. It's not from the Braai Army. Those Oaks have all arrived in New Zealand, from Singapore, from the States, from the UK, and from South Africa. Dani Gerber is a legend there. They are wearing they're calling themselves, in respect for Gerber having last played there in 1981, the infamous 1981 tour, the infamous Flower Bomb test at Eden Park. They are calling themselves the Flower Bomb Squad. So,
genius.
But if you do bump into them, they're going to be in Auckland, they're going to be in Wellington. There are so many South Africans going to that game. And I say South African Kiwis, people who have embraced moving to New Zealand, they've embraced the All Blacks, but they are allowed to be South African just for one day and wear green and gold. Stronger together, as they say. So wherever you are, kind of drop us some pictures on our social accounts. Mail me some stuff, keo.co.za. Go to our WhatsApp channels. We want to know who was at the game and where you were and kind of like what you did. But it really does come down to the nuts and bolts. Now, we got to pick a winner, Zels. 50. If you go over 50 points for a combined total, you will get 93 cents back on your rand. That's a good bet because between these two sides, 28-24 is the average score in the last 3 tests that they played in New Zealand, or 4 tests that they played in New Zealand. And And that favors New Zealand. So it's a 52 points. So it goes over the 50. I would think that's not a bad flutter to have. As I've said, an outright Bok win, that's what I'm going for. Not a bad flutter to have either. You get good returns there. Actually, it's, I think it's, what's it, R2.55 you get, eh?
Yeah.
On an outright Bok win.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
just,
depending on where you go,
come on, man.
can't turn that down, mate.
You've got to go box by 10, baby. When all is said and done, you've got to go box by 10.
Mate, I hope you're right. I sincerely hope you're right. I'd love to be wrong this weekend. I've got the Boks to lose this one by 3 points. New Zealand 25, Boks 22.
I've got the Boks to win it 34-24.
Let's go, baby.
34-24. Because you've got to go more than 30 points to beat New Zealand in New Zealand. And I don't know if they have the capacity to go more than 24. I'm picking Bodie to miss a few.
I love it.
And Geordie to miss a few. So I've got 34-24,
Glorious.
Boks by 10. It's not necessarily as educated as it should be. Zels has got to win for the All Blacks, which shows we're not parochial, we're not partisan. He is the
Go Boka!
he's still got his Bok Faf speeder on as well. So Zels is going for an All Black win. I'm going for a Bok win by 10, and you go for a Bok win by 10, and you can score big time with Avant, as we've said. And just enjoy it, because that's going to be the early appetizer. Australia play against Argentina. I've got the Wallabies to win quite comfortably. You've got the Pumas to win.
Santiago Carreras against Tom Liner, mate.
Yeah.
And Malia at the back there.
Cassie
And
Barnes.
Matera. I've got the Pumas to upset the Wallabies.
He's
in
got that.
Townsville.
And then on Sunday, please, no one forget it. Sunday, it's the women box against France. But again, as we've been saying with New Zealand, perspective. They are into the quarterfinals already. That's the achievement. It's something they've never done before. They've broken into the top 10. It was history-making when they beat Italy, first time ever last Sunday. This French team has always been 20 points better than the female box.
Yeah.
At this World Cup in the pool stages, the two teams they've played, they've beaten them by 20-plus points more than the female box. So if our women get out of that game with anything less than 20, they've improved.
Correct.
And regardless of that result, and unfortunately, you have to back France.
Yep.
Just on history and on strength and form in the tournament, you have to back France to win. But I think the women box are going to be hell of a competitive, but they are into the quarterfinals, and that's all that matters. But there is Curry Cup on, and we're not going to talk about that. There's lots of other things on. We're not going to talk about that, because the only thing that matters is that all roads on Saturday in South African time, 9:05, lead to a TV set somewhere in a pub, in a restaurant, or in our case, at Watsonia in Devil's Peak, to watch the Boks do the unthinkable and win for only the 5th time in New Zealand. Do it, Boks by 10, even though Zal says it will be the Kiwis by something similar.